Who is she? She is the ego. Who is herself? Herself is the extraordinary I. It is the pebble of God. It is the offspring of God that is within her. Now, they're getting ready to come after you, and they're going to come after me on this one. Theologically, and they're going to say, you still go to that church? Every time you got to go somewhere and pay a prophet to give you a word.
Recently, I bought a pair of sunglasses from the internet that promised to allow me to see more clearly. The images were distorted, the colors were off. And then I thought about religious filters. Are we seeing people for who they really are? Or are we seeing people through our own perceptions of good and bad, our own values of right and wrong? Could it be that our image might be distorted? Maybe we need to take off our religious sunglasses and look through the natural eyes of love. Are you looking for more?
ALC, the Abundant Life Center. Dynamic living through spiritual growth. Go to myalc.org for more information.
I'm Ed Montgomery. Looking for more?
It's a time of transition. And if you want to see a bunch of millionaires on the stage, which we have never seen in America before, billionaires have literally gotten on board. And we are now able to see the faces of those. You're going to even, if you were watching, you're going to even see the faces of the national preachers who have been behind it, but have not shown their faces before. All of them are coming out because they believe that the power has now come to deliver them into the world that they've so wanted for such a long time. And for a moment and for a while and for several weeks and a month, I've sat down and I've thought about it since the election, and I've tried to rationalize it, put some logic to it and see, well, what happened? So many people said they were for this and then found out they were for that. And you're saying, well, what? And then you realize something that we've always known, and that your great-grandparents used to always tell your grandparents, and your folk used to always tell you, never put your trust in man. And so or one of the things they used to use, never put your trust in human flesh. And so because of that, it has reminded us, a lot of times we think we can work with people, that we can save people. Or I'm going to be talking about salvation and a lot of things in the future, that we can save them and that we can turn their hearts to love people even beyond their color of their skin. And you begin to realize something, that you cannot turn people's heart. Only God can turn the hearts of people. Now, you might preach, you might teach, you might give things that will build faith, but if faith is twisted and people are teaching a twisted faith, you can wind up learning a twisted faith that will cause you to worship with your hands outstretched, singing, oh, say, can you see? Have you seen that? Where people actually raise their hands and close their eyes in praise and sing, oh, beautiful for spacious guides, for amber waves of grain, and have connected democracy, or should I say connected American democracy into their God space. But here we are now. And one thing I have been talking about, and that it is called the extraordinary I. And that is coming to an understanding that you must know who you are. It is time to reveal the fact of where you came from, who you are, and who you are on this earth. No more do we sit back and just pretend we're just, we all are just children of God, and praise the Lord, we are the child of God, and we just getting along, and we go through life. No, sweetie, it's time for you to understand who you treating a certain way and how you treating them and what you're doing. The scripture is very plain when it talks about touch not my anointed, do my prophet no harm. It's not just talking about preachers or something like that. It's talking about touch not my anointed. Anointed means the rubbed in oil, which means God rubbed in. You know, I've taught you that before. And so you realize, touch not those whom God has rubbed himself in and has become so one with that you cannot tell the difference between them and God. And if you think you cannot like them because they're black, and that means the blackness you see is taking the place of the God that is in your eyesight. So that means you are seeing wrong. Jesus talked about that kind of stuff. He says, how can you judge your brother over there and you got a log in your eye? How can you try to take a splinter out of your brother's eye and you got a big old log or a tree inside of your own eye? Take it out of your eye first. Fix yourself. And then you'll know how to fix the rest of things and be able to fix your brother. Fix yourself first. But if you are calling your sin salvation, if you can't even recognize the sin that has been committed in this country for 250 years, if you can't recognize it, then I don't know what's going to happen. So, but it's not my problem. Not anymore now. I leave you to your sins. It is time for us to begin to get on the road and to begin to walk our faith out again. It is time for us to begin to build our communication, our communion with God, and our community with God. It is once again time not to merely walk down the aisle and say, I want my personal relationship with Jesus. It is time for us to recognize that when we come together as the community or as the church or as the body, that we are growing. We are Christ growing together because we are one people. It's not about just me and Jesus. It's about all of us going in a direction headed toward God and realizing that God is in there with us. That is what this is all about. And now we got to change it. We got to go back. We have to go back to who we are. We have to go back to understanding what we are about. If we don't, we're about to lose this thing. And I'm talking about major losing it. Our world, our morality, our character, our intent. We got to change our thinking. That's what this series, I'm talking about the extraordinary I, is about. There is the physical, and there is the mental, there is the psychic, there is the self, all of these different selves, all of these masks that we have pretended to be in order to say, I'm this for that person, I'm that for that person. But then there is that space inside of us that we realize this is really me. This is the person you talk to, and that thing that talks back to you with rationality and logic and reasoning and smarts and intellect and intent and plans and purposes. That is what is called the extraordinary I. And that extraordinary I is the rock or the stone of the pebble from the rock of ages, which is God himself. From that rock of ages, from God himself, comes the stones in the brook, and the stones and the rock, those boulders break down in stones, and those stones break down in pebbles, small enough to put into a shepherd's bag like David did when he reached into the riverbed and pulled out 5 smooth stones, and one of them destroyed a giant. Because you see, it all came from the big rock. If the big rock is powerful, then the stones or the pebbles are powerful. But if you have been told that you are just this little child of God over there, these little children that God just kind of, the stepchildren that God loves, and you, we just ain't nothing to it. We just, like everybody, we just children of God. If you go through life always being a child of God instead of an offspring of God, a son or daughter of God, the progeny, the actual likeness of God himself, herself, what self? Itself, because nobody knows what God is. God is too big. God is more than gender. God, I just use God and he because I was taught to use God and he, because that's the way I study, that's the way I learn, and it's hard for me to shift. So I just got to use it when I can, don't use it when I don't. Sometimes if I use it, we call God it. Well, what other pronoun can I come up with? I don't know what God is. And the only thing I can understand about God, but if you ask me when I get in trouble, I can tell you that he is a mother for the motherless, a father for the fatherless, a friend for the friendless. He is a sister, he is a brother, he is comfort, he is a shelter in a time of storm. If you ask me, I can take you places that you've never been before, this generation has never heard of before. I can tell you how in dark places and in crazy spaces, God can cover you and keep you and hold you and mold you and let you realize that you are not alone. Somebody say it with me today: I am not alone. And so when I began to realize that, I said, oh my goodness, this was one of the best things. I shouldn't say the best things, but this whole inauguration, this whole change of regimes right now may become the best thing America could ever deal with. I think, and now I'm just thinking, I'm walking with you with your hand in my hand, and we're just on the trail thinking right now. This is not what I come to a conclusion with to lay before you, but I'm just thinking, we're just thinking together because, and when I say I'm thinking with you, it may be right, it might be wrong. It's not a matter of right and wrong here. We're just thinking and just talking with each other. And I understand that had it gone the other way, we'd have had maybe a few years, some years of peace. Something else would have happened, some other wars, because it's always happening. But we may have had a little bit more peace. We may have felt a little bit more secure. But I do know one thing we would have done from when Barack Obama got in office, we would have stopped going to church. You know that's what happened, right? Yeah, it did. We stopped going to church when Barack Obama, because Barack Obama no longer was president, but he was also pastor-in-chief. Because a lot of people thought he was going to fix everything. And we have no idea. We didn't know that one of the most spiritual issues that took place when President Barack Obama came into office, we didn't talk about it. We did not talk about it because we had to get him in office and out of office safely. So we didn't talk about issues concerning his presidency. We just kept quiet. Well, we're not keeping quiet anymore, but we kept quiet. One of the first things that took place, and I met him when he was a senator. I met him, and I'll never forget, my first question to him was he going to be able to maintain his faith, his teaching, and his understanding of the scriptures while he is in office as president. And he sat across the table like as close as I am to this place and that place right there. And he says, Ed, he says, yes, I'll be able to maintain. I said, do you know what America can do to the faith of someone, especially to the faith of people that are different than them? Oh, I'll be able to maintain my faith. And so I was assured, and I told him, I said, well, you can baptize me in the waters of Barack Obama now. I'll go with you. And so what happened was, but one of the largest, I shouldn't say mistake, but one of the greatest turns that took place that I believe was very damaging to our community was when something happened with his pastor. And his pastor, Jeremiah Wright, who was, if you were to listen to Pastor Jeremiah Wright, wouldn't be too different than listening to the younger generation of an Ed Montgomery. Pastor Jeremiah Wright was standing there. He says, people are talking about God bless America. What would happen if God damned America? They'd never listened to it in context. We didn't even repeat that phrase because we were afraid of what the people would do to Barack Obama if we caught a hold of it. Because one of the number one things in the black community that you do not do is you do not deny your pastor's leadership. Never. That was the first black sin. You do not push away your spiritual teaching like that. Well, he was wrong for saying it. In 250 years, you all just put a felon in the office. American church people just put a felon in the White House. Not POTUS, President of the United States, FOTUS, felon of the United States of America. Well, I didn't do it. Did you vote? No, then you did it. Like the prophet Nathan, thou art the woman, thou art the man. Well, I didn't vote because I'm not in this. It doesn't have anything. It does have something to do with you. But it's all right. Because there are a group of us now that are about to get through this thing. This is where now it is time for your church, or what we're going to start calling now our community. Our community now is going to get stronger than ever before, more powerful. Now let's look back at the civil rights movement. Let's look back and see, what was it really all about? What was it? Well, it was like Rosa Parks was on the bus and she was tired and they wanted her to stand up to let somebody white sit down on the bus, but she was tired and she wouldn't get up. No, Rosa Parks wasn't tired. Read the history. Rosa Parks had slept all night long. Rosa Parks didn't even go to work that day. Why? Because Rosa Parks knew she was going to sit on the bus. It was planned. Go back and read. Look at the movie Boycott. Look at all of this. All of that was planned. Those pictures of the dogs biting the children. Go back and look at it. Do you know who was marching that day? It was not the folks who were supposed to vote was on the couch like they've been there. You know who was marching down the street when the dogs and the tear gas and the water hoses was pushing these women? You say they're pushing the women and the men. Okay, do you know why the water was able to push them that hard? Because they were children. These were the high school and middle school black children of Montgomery. Dr. King was only 26 years old. Sandra and I were pastoring at 24. And 23 and 22. By the way, never put no 22, 23-year-old kids in charge of a church, by the way. I don't have to do that no more. Well, I shouldn't say that. We were 29 when we got here. But here is the thing. We must begin with this number one thing, and that is that came out of Mark chapter 5. That's where we have been. And it deals with that story of the woman with the issue of blood. And what had happened is she was so sick, she couldn't get over the illness. The doctors could not help her. Her money could not help her. She didn't have enough money. She didn't have enough healthcare workers and mental therapists. She did not have enough. And it says, but she heard that Jesus was passing by. Number one, she heard the teachings of Jesus. She heard that Jesus was passing by. He just passing by. No, when she heard he was passing by, there was a reason she knew he was passing by. She had to know Jesus in order to say, oh, I need him because he's passing by. She knew who he was. And she said, if I can but touch him, I can just touch the hem of his garment. I'm getting ready to tell you something right here. Your first understanding of creating miracles, how to create your own world, because this is what is going to be so important. When you leave here today, if you don't remember anything else I've said, remember there's one thing about how to create your own world, how to create the moments and the movements in your life that you need. It says, she said to herself, we got two folk here. We got she and herself. Who is she? She is the ego. Who is herself? Herself is the extraordinary I. It is the pebble of God. It is the offspring of God that is within her. Now, they're getting ready to come after you, and they're going to come after me on this one. Theologically, and they're going to say, you still go to that church? But watch the people that tell you, you still go to that church. Look at their fingernails if they got dirt all up under there. Look at their shoes if they unshine. Look at their tattered clothes and see what they look like when you still go to that church. You look at them and say, yeah, baby, I still do. And you should too. And then you turn around and then you begin to realize something. Who that I is. That I was in you when you were born. God was in you when you were born. He didn't come in later. Jesus came into my life. He was there all the time. But the Lord, I received the Lord on this particular day. Sweetie, the Lord was in you the moment you took your first breath. Because, honey, you can't breathe unless God is in you. In him do I live and move and have my being. To be in him means he is in me. Colossians chapter 1. The mystery hidden from the beginning is Christ in us, the hope of glory. And the more you are taught that Jesus came into you later, they can teach you that you were nothing before. Until Jesus came in, I was nothing. Nothing. God don't make nothing. Baby, when you were born, it was a miracle. I don't care what the conveyor belt was, how you got here. What happened, what broke, what didn't, it don't matter. You got here, and God use that space of your being here. And he decided when you took that first breath, he says, here I am. When they thought you was a little baby and you were laughing, you couldn't see no people, but you was playing with the angels. You were playing with spiritual things because you understood those things at the age. You were new and fresh, your soul, because you say, well, if I die, my soul go, I pray the Lord my soul to take. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I pray the Lord my soul to take. I pray the Lord my soul to take. If you got a soul to be taken, then you had a soul to be given. Listen to what we say. Listen to how we believe. And they want you to believe that belief that the Creator has been in you from the beginning is some type of African spirituality, and that's witchcraft. Watch black folk teaching you about what witchcraft is in church. A lot of what they're teaching you is European Christianity, which is the equivalent of witchcraft. Witchcraft is as the sin of rebellion according to Samuel. And so the woman from the extraordinary eyes says this: if I may but touch the hem of his garment. Here is what I was going to teach you, and this is going to be it, because it's so powerful. I can expand on it later, but it's so powerful just in its statement. Do not be ashamed of your limitations. I'm going to say it again. Do not be ashamed of your limitations. Say it with me. Do not be ashamed of my limitations. See, it's hard. Because we don't want to believe. We can't be limited. Do not, I'll say it for you if you don't want to say it. Ed Montgomery, do not be ashamed. I am not ashamed of my limitations. I know what they told you, that you can do anything, but you know you can't. Baby, you can do anything. What anything? And then again, who wants to do anything that is not done well? You can do anything, but you're not looking to do anything. You're looking to do something well. Something that comes up to your extraordinary self. And so once you come to understanding, do not be ashamed of your limitations. Then when you're not ashamed of your limitations, when you're not ashamed of some messes that you've made, okay, you can admit it, I made some messes. Yes, I went down some wrong roads. Yes, I wasn't at my best moment over here. Well, I don't want to look in the past. The blood of Jesus covers all that. Sometimes you got to look at the past. You have to look in the rear view mirror before you change lanes. I know Sandra didn't, but she was supposed to. I just remembered that. I said, baby, look in the rear view mirror before she passed off. She said, I got this. I'm looking over there. I said, look in the rear view mirror. You have to look back and see what's behind you before you change scenarios, or you can cause an accident. Look at your limitations. Look at your weaknesses. Look at what hurt you. Look at what that hurt did to you. Look and ask yourself the question, did that broken heart put me into a tailspin? Look at how you don't want to admit that I I have let some of them folk talking do stuff to me. Yeah. You don't want to, oh, child, I don't care nothing about what they say. Well, sometimes you allow what they say to really begin to hurt you. And then when you hear it over and over and over again, when you keep hearing DEI, you're not as good, you're only in this job because of quotas, you're only in this space because we have been forced to let you in. We have been forced to let. Who is we? What is the word let mean? And how dare you say let you? Who is you? What makes you less than me that I have to, and what makes you greater that makes you the gatekeeper to let me in some? See, you got to break this stuff down because it's been put in your genetics. It's in your epigenetics. It has been passed down from generation to generation to generation. You say, but how can you deal with something that's been passed down into your ego and your system from generation to generation? Real simple. You got to jumpstart it. You got to find Jesus. Well, Jesus, what do I need? Jesus, here we go with Jesus again. I ain't talking about the Jesus you talking about. I'm talking about that Christ in you. I'm talking about that hope of glory. I'm talking about the hope of the reflection of God. I'm talking about when you see me, your Jesus up in the sky ain't as powerful as the Jesus you looking at with your physical eyes right now. Well, we're going to just pray to Jesus. I said, well, no, I don't need you to pray to me right now. Just shock them. Just shock people. How dare you call yourself Christ? Then tell Jesus to quit calling me him. I am in him and he is in me. I am in the Father and the Father is in me. And we have made our home in you. Quit telling Jesus and the Father to say they are me and I am them. You didn't preach that to us. That was part that was ripped out of the slave Bible. So once you know your limitations, and once you're able to deal with your broken hearts, and once you're able to sit down and admit, oh yeah, that previous marriage messed me up. Oh yeah, I don't think I'm ready to go back and do another one right now. Oh yeah, I'm not healed of this. Oh yeah, the things still ain't right about me here. Oh yeah, there's some issues down that road I need to flip and change and fix and get healed from. Once you're able to do that and look at your limitations, now you're able to do the next thing. What is the next thing? The next thing is this. None of that helped me. All of that is over there now. The doctors that tried to help me, it says that I rather grew worse. Everything that tried to fix me, I grew worse. But if I can but touch the hem of his garment, what in the world does if mean? What is if? If is the ability to dream beyond your pain. To dream beyond your limitations. To dream beyond your broken hearts. To dream beyond your sickness. To dream beyond the empty coffers when you know ain't no money in there. You see, you know it's not there. You're trying to have faith that it is, but you know it ain't. Oh, baby, just turn around and say, there ain't none in there. But you see, I don't need the money in there right now. I need the money that's in those coffers over there. And the only way you can get to those coffers is through if. And if I had more time, I'd teach it to you. But not today.
The word this year is bold. I talk to people and they say, you know what, Dr. Ed, I meet a lot of people who say, I'm an educated person, but they talk to me and tell me, you keep flaunting your education, keep using all those big words. Or a person may say they don't like the way I talk, or they don't like the way I look, or they don't like the way I dress. Or, just a lot of things that people will tell other people what they don't like about them. But you know what I'm going to say to you? Sometimes you got to get to a place in your life that you got to get bold about who you are. Now, that doesn't mean you don't make changes. Hey, check an image consultant out. Hey, go online, see what the latest fashions are. Leaf through a magazine. Check some things out. Learn how to talk about things. Take some voice lessons. Do whatever you want to. Make some changes this year. But once you make those changes, let it be you that makes those changes. And once you're satisfied with you, then be the most extraordinary you can ever be. That's what I'm teaching on all this year, is talking about the extraordinary I, the power of that true I of who you are. So take a moment and emphasize it, because giving makes a difference. When you connect your giving with who you are, it reinforces the power of who you are. That's right. It's not just saying, oh, I'm a nice person. You got to give something. When you give something away, whether it's a smile, whether it's a conversation, whether it's a pat on the back, it reinforces it. I want you to take a moment, make a contribution to what we're doing. I don't know what the amount is that's in your mind, but choose one. Might be $8, might be $10, whatever it is. Do it now. You can do it on your text to give, 713-742-2035. But whatever you do it now, right now. We would be so eternally grateful, and it would make me happy. Thank you so much. I appreciate exactly everything that you're doing. Be bold.